In the year 2247, humanity lost the war against the Krell Concordance. The Krell were tall creatures with thick armored skin, and minds focused only on growth and control. They saw all other life as material to use for their endless expansion. Earth's bright cities turned to black glass under their bombardment. Orbital stations broke apart like dry leaves in a storm. Billions died in days. Only 8 million humans escaped in whatever ships still flew. Freighters carried families. Mining rigs held workers and their tools. Old colony ships took children and the sick. Damaged warships carried the last soldiers. The Krell watched the fleeing ships and laughed in their deep rumbling voices. They believed the small primates were finished forever. No more threat, no more resistance. The survivors flew into the deep dark between stars. They had no home left. They had only each other and the will to keep breathing. Admiral Elena Voss led them. She once commanded a heavy cruiser. In the final battle, she ordered her ship to ram a Krell world ship. The impact tore open the enemy vessel and killed millions of Krell. Voss' ship broke, but she lived. Her face carried burns, and her left arm ended in a metal replacement. She spoke little, but her eyes burned with quiet fire. The refugees followed her because she never asked them to die quietly. For months the fleet drifted without direction. Food ran low. Air recyclers failed on weaker ships. Children cried from hunger. Old people whispered about giving up. Voss called every captain to a meeting on her wrecked cruiser. The room had no lights except emergency strips. She stood at the front and spoke in a calm voice. "We will not beg the Krell for mercy. We will not hide in shadows until we fade. We will build something they cannot ignore." The captains stared. One asked, "What can we build with broken ships and dying people?" Voss pointed at the black viewport. "We build a home that moves. We build a fortress that never stops. We build ages." No one laughed, and were too tired for laughter. Work began the next day. Every ship sent its engineers and welders. They pulled apart hulls and engines. They melted metal in zero-gravity forges. They joined pieces with carbon weave ropes stronger than steel. The structure grew slowly. At first it looked like a tangled ball of scrap. Then it took shape. A rough sphere many kilometers wide. Inside chambers formed for living quarters. Reactors sat in the center like beating hearts. Solar wings stretched out to catch weak starlight. People worked in shifts around the clock. They slept in bags tied to walls. They ate thin soup made from recycled waste. Learned to weld before they learned to read. Years passed. The first children born in the void grew tall and thin. They knew only metal corridors and the hum of machines. They called the growing structure home. They named it Aegis, after an old word for shield. The Krell sent scout ships now and then. The scouts saw only drifting wreckage in the dark. They reported nothing important. The Concordance turned its eyes to richer worlds. They forgot the humans. Inside Aegis, the people did not forget. They trained every day. Marines practiced in empty cargo bays. They moved fast in zero-gravity suits patched many times. Engineers improved the gravity lattice. Sections of the fortress could float free, then lock tight again. It made Aegis flexible like a living thing. Physicists built the whisper drive. It pushed without flame or noise. Sensors could not easily find it. Biologists grew food in vast tanks. Algae bloomed green under purple lamps. Gene-changed crops produced fruit in low light. Doctors kept bodies working with what they had. Broken bones set with printed casts. Infections fought with old antibiotics grown in vats. The creed spread through every level. We do not beg. We do not hide. We become the thing they fear most. Persistent. Old people taught the young taught the newer young. No one spoke of Earth as paradise. Earth was a dead place now. The only future was forward. Admiral Voss walked the corridors every day. She stopped to speak with workers. She listened to complaints about food and air. She never promised easy days. She only promised purpose. One engineer asked her why they built something so ugly. Voss looked at the rough walls and mismatched plates. Because beauty does not win wars, ugliness survives. Nodded and went back to work. Decades went by. The generation that remembered Earth grew old. Many died in accidents or sickness. Their children took their places. The children of children became adults. They had never seen a blue sky or felt wind. They knew only the fortress and the stars. Aegis was complete now. Not beautiful, not graceful. A brutal shape of fused metal and salvaged enemy parts. It held 8 million lives. It carried farms, factories, schools, hospitals, armories. It could repair itself with drones and spare parts. It could move faster than any Krell ship expected. It waited in the cold cloud around a small red star. Silent, patient, ready. Scouts still came sometimes. They scanned the debris fields. They saw nothing but junk. They left again. The humans watched from hidden sensors. They smiled thin, hard smiles. The time of hiding would end. Soon. The time of rising would begin. Aegis drifted on. A floating fortress born from loss and anger. A home made by hands that refused to let go. Humanity had not vanished. Humanity had changed shape. And the galaxy would learn what that meant. For 40 years, Aegis drifted in the cold outer cloud of a nameless red dwarf star. The small dim sun gave weak light, but enough for the solar wings to drink power. No messages went out from the fortress. No signals called for help. No probes searched for old friends. The humans stayed quiet, like hunters waiting in tall grass. Krell scout ships passed nearby from time to time. Their sensors swept the dark and found only broken pieces of old ships. The scouts marked the area as empty wreckage field. They flew away again without worry. Inside Aegis, life went on every day without pause. The people woke, ate, worked, slept, and woke again. They lived in tight metal rooms stacked close together. Walls curved from old hull plates welded tight. Lights glowed soft yellow from long tubes. Air smelled of metal and growing plants. Children ran through wide corridors chasing balls made from scrap foam. They lived each day in the quiet shell of their fortress, waiting for something, laughed loud, and their voices bounced off the walls. Older ones taught lessons in small classrooms. Numbers and words and history came first. Then came fighting skills and fixing machines. Every child learned to wear a suit before age 10. They practiced sealing helmets fast in dark rooms. They learned to move in zero gravity without fear. They called it dancing with shadows. Engineers worked in the deep core near the big reactors. They improved the gravity lattice every year. Thin fields held huge sections in place. When needed, a section could break free, float away, then snap back. It made Aegis bend and twist like a giant snake. No other species built like this. Most ships stayed stiff and smooth. Humans made theirs alive and changing. Physicists spent long nights on the Whisper Drive. They tested small models first, then bigger pieces. The drive pushed with no fire, no roar, no heat. Trail. It bent space in tiny ways, so quiet sensors missed it. Aegis could glide fast and leave no sign. Enemies would see nothing until too late. Biologists filled giant tanks with green water. Algae grew thick and bright under purple lamps. Fish swam in the tanks and ate the algae. The fish gave meat, and the waste fed the plants. Crops hung from walls in long rows. Potatoes, beans, tomatoes, all changed to grow in low light. Fruits tasted strange, but filled empty bellies. Doctors watched health close. They fixed broken arms from falls. They grew new skin for burns. They made medicine from mold in small vats. Old sicknesses came back sometimes. The doctors fought them with knowledge saved from Earth books. The creed lived in every heart. We do not beg. We do not hide. We become the thing they fear most. Persistent. People said it before meals. They whispered it during hard work. They shouted it when someone fell and got up again. The words became part of breathing. The first children born on Aegis grew tall and strong. They had pale skin from no real sun. Their eyes saw well in dim light. They moved smooth in low gravity. They knew stories of blue oceans and green forests, but the stories felt like dreams, not truth. Their truth was steel and stars. They loved Aegis like a parent. They hated the Krell with cold, steady anger. Not hot rage, but deep promise. One day we will answer. One day they will remember. Admiral Elena Voss walked the halls every week. Her hair turned white long ago. Her metal arm clicked soft when she moved. She stopped to talk with workers. She asked about families and tools. She listened when people spoke of fear or tiredness. She never lied about easy days ahead. She only said, keep building, keep learning, breathing. One young engineer showed her a new lattice joint. It locked faster and held stronger. Voss tested it with her own hand. She nodded once. Good work. The engineer smiled wide. That smile stayed with him for days. Years turned into decades. The people who fled Earth became grandparents. Many died peaceful in their beds. Others died fixing reactors or welding in hard places. Their names went on wall lists. Long metal plates carried thousands of names. People touched the names when they passed. It kept memories alive. New babies came every month. The population stayed near 8 million. No more, no less. Space and food set the limit. Schools taught the young about the war. They showed old videos of burning cities. They showed Krell ships big as mountains. The children watched silent. Their fists closed tight. They asked, why did we lose? Answered simple. We lost because we fought alone. We will never fight alone again. Aegis is us together. One mind, one will. One body made of many hands. The fortress grew smarter over time. Drones repaired outside hulls. They crawled like insects, fixing cracks. Computer minds watched systems every second. They warned of weak spots before breaks happened. People trained to board enemy ships. They practiced in mock halls made to look like Krell rooms. They cut through thick doors with hot torches. They moved fast, low, and quiet. They learned to use enemy weapons against them. One Marine instructor said, always take their tools. Make their strength your own. The young Marines listened hard. They wanted to be ready when the time came. Scouts still flew past now and then. Aegis stayed dark and still. Sensors watched the scouts leave. People smiled in the control. Runes. Not yet. Soon. The red dwarf star burned steady. Aegis floated in its far shadow. A huge, ugly thing of metal and purpose. It held farms and factories, schools and armories, hospitals and homes. It carried dreams of revenge. It carried hope of tomorrow. 40 years of silence built something strong, something patient, something unstoppable. The galaxy thought humans gone. The galaxy was wrong. Aegis waited. It breathed slow. It grew ready. The rise would come, and when it did, nothing would stay the same. The Krell Concordance finally sent ships back to the old human sectors. They wanted to mine the ruins for rare metals and broken tech. A survey flotilla arrived in the red dwarf system. 3 huge harvester ships led the way, each one the size of a small city, with long arms for scooping debris. 12 cruisers guarded them. The cruisers had thick armor and heavy guns. The Krell felt safe and sure. They expected only cold junk and silence. Their sensors swept wide. They found the drifting shape of Aegis right away. At first, the Krell officers laughed over their comms. "Look at that ugly thing," they said. A ball of scrap, patched together like a child's toy. No clean lines, no smooth curves, just lumps and fins. It looked dead and harmless. The Harvester captains ordered approach. They planned to strip it for parts too. Then Aegis moved. It did not glide slow and proud like Krell ships. Jerked fast and violent like a beast waking up. The whisper drives hummed low and invisible. The whole lattice shifted in seconds. Sections pulled apart, then locked in new places. Armor plates slid to cover weak spots. Gun barrels rose from hidden holes. The Krell bridge crews froze for one long breath. Then alarms screamed. Point defense beams shot out from Aegis. They were old mining lasers changed to weapons. Bright lines cut through space. They hit the lead cruiser's engines first. Metal glowed red, then exploded. The cruiser spun helpless. More beams struck. Another cruiser lost thrusters. A third had its sensor dome torn open. The Harvesters tried to turn away. Their big bodies moved slow. Aegis chased them. It accelerated hard for something so large. No other ship could match that speed. The Krell fired back. Heavy plasma bolts flew toward Aegis. Sections. Those sections broke off on purpose. They floated away like dead skin. New pieces moved in to take their place. Aegis shed damage like water. It kept coming. Boarding pods launched next. Small metal tubes packed tight with humans. The pods looked simple and cheap. Inside were Marines in patched hard suits. They had trained for this their whole lives. The pods slammed into Harvester hulls. Cutters burned holes fast. Marines poured out. They moved in low gravity like fish in water. They carried rifles made from salvaged parts. They used short blades too. The Krell soldiers waited inside, tall and strong with natural armor. They expected weak, soft humans. They met fighters who knew no fear. The humans fought smart. They used corners and vents. They shot from shadows. They cut power lines to darken rooms. Krell died surprised, went quiet. Their guns stopped firing. Their lights dimmed. The cruisers tried to run. Aegis caught them. More pods hit. More Marines boarded. Some cruisers surrendered. White flags waved on comms. Aegis answered in perfect high Krell language. The voice was calm and cold. "We do not accept your surrender. We accept your silence." Then the transmissions ended. The last cruiser tried one final shot. A big railgun slug flew toward Aegis' heart. Aegis opened a section wide. The slug went inside. The section closed again. Nothing came out. The battle finished in hours. Wreckage floated everywhere. Broken Krell ships leaked air and fire. Humanity took what they could use, reactors and guns and armor plates. They left the rest to drift. Aegis sent no victory message. It stayed quiet again. But the survivors who escaped in escape pods carried stories. They spoke on weak signals to other Krell ships. They told of a monster in the dark, a floating thing that ate fleets, a thing made by the dead humans. The stories spread slow at first, then faster, through trade stations and undernet channels. Pirates heard and changed course. Merchant captains rerouted far away. Species who once ignored Earth now whispered the name, Aegis. Some laughed still. Others felt cold in their bones. The Krell Concordance leaders grew angry. They called it a fluke, a lucky hit by desperate animals. They prepared a bigger force. 40 capital ships. Thousands of drones. They would erase the mistake. But inside Aegis the people celebrated quiet. They repaired the damage. They added new pieces from the Krell wrecks. They sharpened blades. They loaded fresh ammo. They trained harder. On walls, they showed Aegis big and strong, Krell ship small and broken. Admiral Elena Voss stood on the command deck. She watched the stars through thick viewports. Her metal arm rested on a rail. She spoke low to her officers. They thought we were gone. Now they know we are here. An officer asked, "What next?" Voss looked at the dark. "We wait. They will come again, bigger and madder, and we will be ready." The fortress drifted on, scarred but stronger. It held its breath. It watched the void. The galaxy started to feel the change. A small moon of metal and will, born from ashes, fed by anger, growing hungrier every day. The rise had begun, and it moved without noise, without mercy, without end. Word of the lost flotilla spread through the galactic undernet like poison in water. Traitors carried the tales first. They whispered in dark bars on neutral stations. A ghost ship from the dead human world came back, they said. Not a fleet of small vessels, not scattered refugees begging for scraps. One single thing, a floating fortress, ugly and huge. It swallowed 3 harvesters and their guards. It left no survivors to ransom. Only silence and drifting metal. The stories grew bigger with each telling. Some said Aegis was 10 times larger than a Krell world ship. Others said it moved faster than light itself. A few claimed it spoke in the voices of the dead. The Krell tried to stop the rumors. They blocked channels and punished talkers. But the undernet never sleeps. Pirates heard the name Aegis and changed their hunting grounds, sectors. Merchant captains rerouted whole trade lanes. Insurance prices rose for any ship near those stars. Species that once mocked the fallen humans now felt uneasy. The quiet ones who survived by staying small watched closest. They remembered how the Krell crushed Earth without mercy. Now the Krell looked afraid. That fear tasted sweet to many. Inside Aegis, the people listened to the faint signals they allowed in. They heard the growing whispers. They smiled thin smiles in the mess halls. Children drew new pictures on corridor walls. Big jagged shapes with guns everywhere. Small Krell ships running away. The drawings showed no mercy. Admiral Elena Voss called her senior officers to the main deck. The room was wide, with screens showing star maps. She stood at the center rail. Her white hair caught the soft light. Her metal arm gleamed. She spoke clear and slow. "They know we fight. Soon they will come in force. We must be more than ready. We must be the nightmare they cannot wake from." The officers nodded. They had waited long for this. Engineers worked without rest. They pulled weapons from the captured wrecks. They rebuilt them better. Railguns grew longer barrels. Lasers got cooler vents. Missiles carried sharper warheads. Sections of the lattice changed again. Some became thick shields. Others turned into launch bays for new pods. Drones crawled outside, adding plates. They made Aegis tougher every day. Marines drilled harder. They practiced boarding in full dark. They learned Krell ship layouts by heart. They knew where bridges sat, where reactors hid, where soldiers slept. They moved as teams now, silent and fast. One mistake meant death. No one made mistakes twice. Louder. We do not beg. We do not hide. We become the thing they fear most. Persistent. People said it before sleep. They carved it into metal beams. It lived in their blood. The Krell Concordance could not stay quiet. Humiliation burned their leaders. They gathered a battle group. 40 capital ships. Each one a mountain of guns and armor. Thousands of drones swarmed like angry insects. They set course for the Red Dwarf system. They would crush the anomaly. They would burn the ghost to ash. Aegis waited in open space. It floated still. No movement. No lights. Sensors saw it as dead junk again. The Krell commanders felt sure. He ordered full advance. The fleet closed in tight formation. Then, Aegis woke. It did not jerk this time. It unfolded slow and terrible. Sections peeled open like flower petals made of steel. Whisper drives pushed gentle, but strong. The whole fortress turned to face the enemy. The battle started fast. Krell guns roared first. Plasma and kinetics hammered Aegis' outer layers. Pieces broke away on purpose. They floated out as decoys. Some exploded in bright flashes to blind sensors. Others mimicked reactor heat to draw fire. Aegis answered with railguns. Long slugs flew at high speed. They punched through Krell armor like needles through cloth. One capital ship split open in seconds. Air and fire spilled into vacuum. Drones rushed to swarm Aegis. The fortress met them with point defense. Beams and shrapnel clouds tore drones apart. Boarding pods launched in waves. Humans in patch suits flew toward enemy hulls. They cut in fast. They fought through corridors. They reached reactors and set charges. Krell soldiers died in their own ships. The flagship charged last. It aimed to ram Aegis' core. Voss watched from her deck. She gave one order. Open the mouth. Aegis obeyed. Vast bays yawned wide. The flagship flew inside. Gates closed behind it. Minutes passed. The bays opened again. Nothing came out. The flagship was gone. The battle ended in 17 minutes. Krell survivors limped away in broken ships. They carried no hope, only terror. They broadcast what they saw. One image spread fastest. A single human in battered armor stood on Aegis' outer lattice. Wreckage burned behind him. He raised one fist to the stars. The picture traveled far. It reached every corner of known space. Species stared at it. Some felt awe, others felt dread. The myth of Aegis grew real. No longer rumor, now truth. The floating fortress drifted among the dead. It took what it needed. It left the rest. It grew stronger again. Inside, people cheered. Quiet. They hugged families. They touched nameplates of the fallen. They knew more fights waited. But for now, they breathed easier. The galaxy understood something new. Humans did not just survive. They came back changed. They came back angry. They came back unstoppable. Aegis floated on, silent and patient, waiting for the next challenge. The rise continued, and nothing could stop it now. Decades passed after the great battle that broke the Krell battle group. Aegis no longer floated alone in the cold dark. Around it now moved dozens of smaller fortresses, each one born from captured Krell hulls. Humans took the big enemy ships and rebuilt them. They stripped away fancy curves and weak spots. They added human lattice fields and whisper drives. They made the new ships ugly and strong like their mother. People called them Children of Aegis. The first child came from the Krell flagship that vanished inside Aegis bays. Humans cut it open from within. They kept the strong core. They built new layers around it. They gave it guns and farms and homes. When it launched, the people cheered from viewports. More children followed. Each victory brought new hulls. Each new hull became another home. The fleet grew slow but steady. No rushing, no waste. Inside the original Aegis, life changed too. The scars from old battles stayed visible. Burn marks and patched holes told stories. But inside the halls grew brighter. New lights hung from ceilings. Gardens expanded into open chambers. Trees grew tall under artificial suns. Children played under green leaves. They ran barefoot on soft moss floors. They laughed, and their voices filled the air. Schools taught more than war now. They taught building and dreaming. They taught how to make worlds from nothing. Young engineers designed better drives. They made whisper fields stronger and quieter. Physicists found ways to link the children fortresses. They could share power and thoughts across short distances. The whole fleet moved as one mind when needed. Marines still trained every day. But now they had new toys, armor stronger than before, blades sharper than bone, that healed small wounds on their own. They boarded practice ships and fought mock battles. They won most times. The creed never faded. We do not beg. We do not hide. We become the thing they fear most. Persistent. It echoed in every new child fortress. It lived in every new generation. The Krell Concordance fell apart from inside. Client species saw the recordings. They saw humans rise from death. They saw fleets vanish into one ugly mouth. Fear turned to anger. Revolts started small, then grew big. World after world broke free. The Krell leaders tried to hold on. They sent ships to crush rebels. But many ships never came back. Some joined the rebels instead. The Concordance crumbled like dry sand. Other empires watched from far away. They sent envoys, not armies. Small diplomatic ships approached the growing human fleet. Questions. What do the humans want? The envoys came from many species. Tall, thin ones with glowing skin, short, heavy ones with multiple arms. All spoke polite words. All waited for answers. From the command deck of the original Aegis Admiral Elena Voss answered. She was very old now. Her body held together by machines and will. Her eyes still burned bright. She stood straight despite the years. She looked at the envoys on the big screen. She spoke in simple words. Nothing you can give us. We already took the only thing that matters. She pointed one metal finger at the stars outside. We took tomorrow. They understood at last. Humans did not want land or gold or slaves. They wanted time. Time to grow. Time to build. Time to live free forever. The envoys left with no deal signed, but they left in peace. Galaxy again. This time not as fear alone, as something deeper. Humans had not conquered planets. They had become nomads of the void, a moving empire of floating citadels. They refused to kneel, they refused to stay still. They refused to die. The children fortresses spread out slow. They visited old human ruins. They gathered seeds and data from buried vaults. They found frozen embryos and woke them. New humans joined the fleet. They learned the creed fast. They added their hands to the work. Aegis stayed the heart, the big scarred mother. It drifted at the center. Its children circled it like moons. Sometimes the fleet stopped near quiet stars. They built new gardens. They let children see real sunlight for the first time. They told stories of Earth, not as lost paradise, but as the place that taught them to fight, the place that taught them to. Admiral Voss grew weaker each year. Her officers asked her to rest more. She refused. She walked the halls slow. She touched nameplates of old friends. She spoke to young ones who ran past. One day she stood on the outer lattice. She wore no suit. A force field held air around her. She looked at the stars for a long time. A young Marine stood nearby. He asked what she saw. Voss smiled small. I see us, she said. Everywhere. The Marine looked out too. He saw the children fortresses shining in the dark. He saw new ones being born from captured hulls. He felt something big in his chest. Pride, hope, anger turned to purpose. Voss died peaceful in her bed months later. People gathered quiet. They carried her name to the wall. They added it with care. They did not cry loud. They worked harder instead. The fleet moved on. No one claimed. It grew. It learned. It waited for nothing. The galaxy changed around it. Old empires grew careful. New alliances formed without humans. But everyone knew one truth. Humanity had not survived. Humanity had ascended, not to gods on high thrones, but to something worse for their enemies. A species that turned extinction into architecture. Floating fortresses moved silent through the black. Inevitable. Eternal. They carried farms and factories, schools and armories, dreams and anger. They carried tomorrow, and they refused to come down. Humanity had risen. Unlike any other story in the galaxy, they stayed risen, and the stars belonged to them now.